Hey everybody, you're listening to Second Round Steals as we go through our 2015-2016 NBA team previews. Be sure to check out the rest of our previews, and don't forget to stay tuned with us for regular updates throughout the season. Hey everybody, we're back continuing our previews for the 2015-2016 season. This time we're going to be talking about the Los Angeles Clippers.
Right. So last year they went 56-26. In the playoffs last year, they had that really amazing series against the Spurs in the first round, which they won in 7 games. But in the second round, the semifinals, they played the Rockets, and Chris Paul basically broke down, and they, again, lost in 7. So it'll be an interesting year for them to see if they can finally get over the hump and make the conference finals with this current core.
Yeah, isn't that what made DeAndre cry in the locker room? Chris Paul breaking down, attacking him. I remember that being a whole thing. Anyway, so the key additions for this team, they made a lot of moves this offseason.
Just signed some more old guys.
Yeah, they picked up Lance Stevenson, Paul Pierce, the God, Cole Aldrich, Josh Smith, Pablo Prigioni, the other God, Chuck Hayes, and Luc Richard Mbah a Moute.
Yeah, and as for losses, they lost Matt Barnes, their starting 3. They got rid of all of Glenn Davis, all of him. They traded Spencer Hawes in the Lance Stevenson deal. Hedo Turkoglu is retired now, I guess, and they got rid of Jordan Hamilton.
I don't think he's retired. I think he just disappears for times, and then he just gets signed to a random team.
Yeah. I think that's Hedo Turkoglu's current career. He's been in the league for 15 years, and he just never goes away.
He doesn't do anything. He just lives on through highlights, but not highlight plays, weird highlights. Do you remember there was one play last season where he licked his hand maybe 17 times throughout the game?
I don't.
There's a video. Look it up. He kept licking his hand and touching the ball. It was very odd. I don't know if that was a ritual. Anyway, so projected starting lineup for this team didn't change much from last year except for the loss of Barnes. So you still got Chris Paul at point guard. JJ Redick's still going to be starting shooting guard. This one's where I'm different from a lot of people. A lot of people are saying Paul Pierce should fill in the starting role. I'm saying Wesley Johnson comes in just because, you want a strong second unit. That's what they've lacked in for so long. Wesley Johnson doesn't have to play 35 minutes a game. He can just come in and be the starter, though. They don't need
He's
it.
a lot better defender than Paul Pierce at this.
Exactly, and they also don't need another offensive superstar at the 3 spot.
Yeah, I think Paul Pierce too. He's more of a stretch forward. It started with the Nets, and now he's kind of embracing the role as an undersized 4.
Definitely. So then power forward, still Blake Griffin.
Surprising.
And center, DeAndre Jordan.
Oh, he's back? I didn't hear it.
Yeah, no, apparently. Actually, I think he was going to have his mom play the first game of the season for him, but I'm not sure. So, stat for this team.
My stat was, this is the 5th year with the Clippers, with Chris Paul and Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan. So, in those 5 years, they've never made the finals. They've never made the Western Conference Finals either. So, this is a big year for them. Whether they make it to the conference finals or not, something's going to happen if they don't win. Whether it's Crawford being traded or Paul and Griffin doing something, they've been almost a treadmill team, but a high-level treadmill team, because they haven't won much, and they haven't even reached the next level. And I think adding all these new pieces puts a lot of pressure on them this year.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when we say win, let's also be clear. Just getting some past where they've been. They've seen the semis. You want to get to the Western Conference Finals at least, and they should have been there. Besides whatever meltdown occurred on that squad,
they beat the Spurs, and they were my pick to win the finals last year.
Yeah,
in the first round.
They were a fun pick. They were a very likable pick. A lot of people had them as the pick to win it all. Mm-hmm. After that final Spurs game, that Spurs series.
I guess you can blame it on injuries, but something has to move forward and progress, or either that or blow it up.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't know how much they can really blow up at this point. Mm-hmm. But so And obviously, before I go on to my stat, the winning thing does really apply to Chris Paul. There's been all knocks on his game for a while now. And we've only seen him go to the second round, 4 times since he's been in the league? For 10 years?
I mean, he's definitely the best point guard in the league.
I think he's the best regular season point guard.
Yeah.
And that's not insulting him or saying there's anything wrong with him. I'm just saying, I don't know. I feel he does have that killer gene. He does have that clutch factor. But maybe it's just a lack of support. But I feel like that excuse gets so old after a while when we're talking about a 10-year career. Anyway, so my stat for this one is actually helping him out. I'm saying second unit point per game. They've ranked dead last for how many years now in production from their second unit. They never have anyone consistent outside Jamal Crawford. Their unit, I'm pretty sure, scored 19 points last year, and Jamal Crawford contributed 16, 15 of those. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how well their second unit plays with all of these amazing additions, because essentially they have a starting lineup on their bench.
Yeah. We kind of missed Josh Smith, too. Like, last year when he joined the Rockets, he was a major part of their team. Whether he fits with Paul Pierce and Lance Stevenson, whether that leads to almost a lack of shooting, I don't know, but Josh Smith was really good as a distributor last year, and that will definitely be helpful on the bench or even towards crunch time when he might have to replace Blake Griffin
or DeAndre Jordan.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, I'm agreeing with you on that, especially because we'll get into this in the big picture. So, what do you see as the big picture for this team?
Like I was saying right at the beginning, they beat the Spurs last year. It was a really competitive, really tough series that got on to the final possession. But after that, they really didn't show much. And I'm hoping for them to eventually get over the hump and get to the conference finals. And, that's what I'm expecting from them. But if they don't, I really don't know where they can go. But I like their additions this offseason, adding Prigioni, adding Smith and Pierce as their veteran presence. But I don't know about Lance Stevenson, and I don't know if Josh Smith can be the same. Lance Stevenson especially. Last year in Charlotte, he was horrible. But this year, maybe Doc straightens him out.
I mean, yeah, let's remember, Doc straightened Rondo out to be a quality player.
Yeah, so that could be a major storyline. I'm hoping and I'm really expecting the same production from Griffin and DeAndre and Chris Paul. And Blake Griffin might even be a contender for the MVP this year, along with Chris Paul. But aside from that, it's really relying on their secondary players, their non-stars, their role players, for them to succeed this year.
Mm-hmm. I have a similar thing. I mean, now that they have this depth, there's really no excuse for the postseason collapse. They've always been given a pass, they just didn't have a bench, they didn't have, a second unit. Now, I mean, you don't have Jamal Crawford and Austin Rivers as the sole people relieving Chris Paul of distributing duties. You have Lance Stevenson, who, while he was not great by any means in Charlotte, he wasn't good, he wasn't anything, he was just there. He was still a good passer. He's not a shooter. He's never been a shooter, though. He's always been more of that ball handler. Even back with the Pacers. He shot a respectable percent from three, but he was better initiating that offense and rebounding the ball, but still. Josh Smith, again, is another distributor. If you just go back to his Hawks days, and you saw with his run with the Rockets.
Did you know that he's on the same AAU team as Dwight Howard?
Yeah.
I think that was repeated at least 20 times during the game.
Yeah. Also, Griffin we've seen making so many strides in his game as a defender. He was one of the most strangest stats to me. He was the number 1 post defender last season.
Wow.
Yeah, he's made so many strides. He's no longer just the dunking guy, but we've already talked about that.
He's a really underrated ball handler and passer.
Yeah, he's very good, especially when you saw when Chris Paul was out at the start of that Rockets series. He was distributing the ball perfectly for them. And Paul Pierce, you have Paul Pierce to come in crunch time and make those dagger shots that everyone else is too scared to make. And I think part of what's been happening here is these guys have lost in first rounds and your second rounds so often when it comes to like crunch time that I think they might be a little bit scared of just taking the shot. You have Paul Pierce coming in after, a legacy of hitting these shots. I think that really will help them come deep in the postseason. And they don't have to burn him like the Wizards did. He doesn't have to be playing every game, be on the floor the whole time. He can just play spot minutes, maybe give you 15, 20 minutes a game at most.
And one thing that Paul Pierce adds is leadership. Going to be really vocal with the team.
Exactly.
Chris Paul and DeAndre Jordan and Blake Griffin, it seems like they really don't like each other. From if you watch their body language of the game, Chris Paul kind of yells a lot at DeAndre, but Paul Pierce, he'll set everyone straight. And whether or not that's a good thing for this team, we have yet to see. But he's gonna be the alpha dog, I feel, in the locker room.
I feel like Chris Paul has a nasty streak that nobody ever wants to talk about. They always say oh, he's just a fierce competitor. MJ was a fierce competitor. But MJ was a nasty dude. MJ wasn't a nice guy. He was kind of an ass. But, Chris Paul, I feel, has that same thing. He seems all smiles with his Allstate commercials and his Bill Cosby sweaters. But I think he might be a little bit nasty. I mean, also DeAndre's...
He's a little whiny.
Yeah, and DeAndre's soft. So, I mean, that kind of whole combo won't work out well. So maybe Paul Pierce will help mitigate that. But, I don't know. Especially after seeing when he made his mom call, and then Paul Pierce is just kind of always yelling at him or yelling at anyone he can find. Also, we'll get into this later because I know this is definitely going to come up on your social media part.
Of course.
So, excitement level.
I have him at a 7.5. I mean, I'm a really big fan of Blake Griffin. I'm okay with Chris Paul. I feel like he's kind of floppy at sometimes. It kind of gets really annoying to watch because his constant yelling. And Doc Rivers is also a really good coach. But the whole DeAndre Jordan thing, the hack of DeAndre, that can be a really, really big part of how often I watch this team. Clippers games were really long last year just because of hack of DeAndre. Yeah. Just watching him shoot free throws nonstop, starting at the beginning of the fourth quarter or something. That is not a fun thing to watch. And I feel it's sometimes last year the Clippers kind of settled into shooting mid-range shots, but hopefully that's different now. They're adding a lot more ball handlers, and there's going to be a lot less ISO, especially with Jamal Crawford having less of a responsibility on the bench. So I'm looking forward to this team to see how they differ from last year and to see if they've made any strides in becoming a more cohesive team and not really relying too much on their three main guys.
Yeah, I have them at a 9, actually, a 9.0, just because I feel like the additions they made with Lance Stevenson and Josh Smith, they could revitalize Lob City if they wanted to. They can. You saw Josh Smith with Dwight Howard doing lobs.
Yeah, post to post alley-oops. That was ridiculous.
Yeah, so I think Josh Smith could add a lot of fun to this team if you give him some burn. And Lance Stevenson, he's not going to be pretty watching with his shooting, but he still has good handles and he can pass the ball really well. So that could be a lot of fun to watch, just having so many primary distributors out there. Another one, watching Paul Pierce hit daggers in close games, that could be cool. You said watching DeAndre shoot free throws. I think, actually, with this depth that they now have, DeAndre Jordan's just not going to play after a certain point.
Yeah.
They're gonna pull out, like you said, Paul Pierce has been playing a lot of stretch 4. They're going to put Pierce at the 4, and Griffin's going to be playing center. And that's how they're going to play teams in close games at the end of the fourth quarter. Because they can't have Jordan shooting anymore. And that might make them a little bit more watchable for you and for people who feel this similar. But yeah, I think 9. I think they could be really good this year. They have a championship pedigree between Doc and Pierce. They have proven want winners, not actual winners, but want to be winners in Chris Paul and Blake Griffin.
Yeah, and Paul Pierce is the only guy with a championship on that team.
But Chris Paul has a fire in him that he'll do whatever is needed. It's just more of whether or not he can get it done. He's shown that he can at times. He's shown that he might get a little bit whiny if he doesn't get it done. Others, but that's neither here nor there. I think they're going to be really good. I think they have the makes of a contender this year.
So what kind of record do you see for them this year? Or how far do you see them getting in the playoffs, which is probably inevitable?
I see them maybe 60 wins. Honestly, besides the Spurs, I think they made the biggest push, like the most ridiculous change this offseason. I don't see a reason why they don't get to the Western Conference Finals this year. You know, they're not matching up with the Spurs again, but if you give them that series where they're matched up with the Rockets again, they're not losing that lead in such a ridiculous fashion again. Not with this depth, not with Paul Pierce, Josh Smith, and Lance Stevenson coming in, and when you don't have to play DeAndre Jordan, Blake Griffin, and Chris Paul like 38, 39 minutes a game.
I have them around 60 wins, 55 to 60 wins. Definitely making the playoffs, definitely getting past the first round, and there's that whole Western Conference semifinals thing. But like you said, I see them getting over that hump this year. Like, they're just too good to not make the Western Conference Finals and the finals.
There were zero excuses for them not to be challenging for
finals. There's zero excuses. Especially with Doc controlling everything. He can get rid of players. Like Jamal Crawford might be on the trading block now. He could probably upgrade and get like another defender, another backup big man to spell DeAndre Jordan for the end of the game. So with everything at their disposal, like, they really have no excuse, and like the pressure really is on them.
Yeah, no, I agree. Trade watch, Jamal. Where could he go? Jamal Crawford? Where do you think?
I really don't know. I could see him going to maybe a lottery team.
I don't know anyone
for the cap league, because I don't see any teams that needs a ball dominant, streaky shooter in Jamal Crawford that really doesn't defend.
Memphis. I think Memphis needs him. You know, they've made a proven point that they're not going to sign through. Well, we'll get into that, but just what they've shown by signing Mike Miller and Vince Carter these past couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if he's going anywhere, Memphis might be the one to bite, the one contender to bite. Obviously, what you said, he probably could go to the Sixers or something, and Sixers would waive him. But yeah. So, social media. This is fun. Let's get into this one.
Oh, I obviously wanted to talk about Chris Paul playing the Africa game. It was definitely the highlight of the Clippers season, off-season.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. Yeah.
Other than that, DeAndre Jordan re-signed with the team.
Oh, did he? I'm glad they got that done. Such a nice, tidy fashion.
Like, I think it was really timely. There were no kinks. Like, he didn't want to go anywhere else.
Yeah. He didn't have his mom call anyone. There was no camping out in his house.
Mark Cuban wasn't in a car driving around Dallas.
Blake Griffin did not sleep in front of his door.
There was no emoji gate from almost every significant player in the NBA.
Doc Rivers' daughter did not call DeAndre and say something that for some reason got him to sign.
I think Doc Rivers' daughter is dating someone.
I just know it came out. Doc Rivers' daughter called and talked to DeAndre, and that's apparently what swayed him. So I don't know what was said, but I feel like that's something we should look into. Also, you heard about the Chris Paul thing with that?
Which one?
When he apparently called him up crying, saying like, "Yo, you can't leave us, DJ. You gotta stay."
Seems like a Chris Paul thing to do. I mean, he does it.
He does.
He does it with calls to Joey Crawford, the ref. I mean, I don't see him being any lower than that. I mean, he berates DeAndre like almost every time I watch the Clippers play.
He tries to start fist fights with him, and then it's just like he cries when he doesn't want to be a part of that anymore. Mm-hmm. Also, just another part adding to my mean streak of Chris Paul. Remember when he called out the the woman ref?
Oh yeah.
For being these stupid calls. Like, he said something.
He said something. Oh, I don't think this is the right career for you.
Yeah, he was being. Oh, it was awful because he didn't get his fake foul calls. I feel like he's the meanest player that nobody talks about. We make such a big deal about KG and all the stuff he said. I feel like Chris Paul is the dirtiest trash talker.
I think he's just like a mean guy to his teammates, but like he kind of backs down whenever there's something going on with the other players. Like he's buddy buddy with LeBron and Carmelo and Chris Bosh, but like with the rest of his team, he kind of almost has a Napoleon complex.
Yeah, that's a perfect way to describe it.
Oh, update. Callie, Doc Rivers' daughter, Callie Rivers, she was dating Kyrie Irving, so
Was.
I don't know what she said to DeAndre, but he's back with the team.
And her and Kyrie are broken up. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Oh, Kyrie was just trying to get some kind of advantage for his point guard skills.
Yeah.
Oh.
Maybe he goes to the Clippers.
Oh, no. Oh, man. All right. Anything else for this team?
No, I'm just really looking forward to seeing Blake Griffin play and probably DeAndre Jordan cry.
Me too. All right, then. Until next time, guys. Thanks for listening.
Thanks.
Hey, thanks for listening to Second Round Steals, our NBA podcast. Please be sure to check out the rest of our 2015-2016 NBA team previews, and stay tuned. We're going to have a lot of different podcasts, probably weekly, and we'll be there every step of the way covering all the drama, great games, great plays, and highlights of the NBA season. So please be sure to check us out on iTunes, on SoundCloud, and on YouTube for your podcast needs. And stay tuned for more content outside of podcasts, like videos and articles, and even probably live discussions. Thanks for listening.